Hey guys, Steph Davis here from flipthiswholesaler.net, where I teach you to make more money, flip more houses, and kick more ass. I am here today with a brand new Q&A Tuesday video for you guys, and my question this week comes from Elizabeth. And Elizabeth writes, "Hi Steph, I'm a little confused when it comes to the steps I need to take once I find a buyer. When I get the assignment agreement signed, do I just give it to my buyer and let them handle the closing? Do you recommend using my own title company or let the buyer choose theirs? Thank you, Elizabeth." All right, so questions about what to do once you find the buyer, you have the assignment agreement signed. What do you do next? I strongly recommend, first off, I strongly recommend that before you start, that one of the first things that you do when you get started as a wholesaler is to find a good title company, a good investor-friendly title company to bring your deals to. Best way to find one in your area is to simply ask some of the other active wholesalers and investors in your market. If you don't know of any, go to your RIA meeting. A lot of times at RIA meetings, they will actually have a representative there from their preferred title company, so that's the easiest way to do it. But I recommend having a title company lined up ahead of time. It's just what you want to do when you, as a wholesaler, since you're kind of in the middle and you're putting the seller and the buyer together, you want to remain in control of that transaction as much as you possibly can. So by controlling where the closing is taking place and having a title company lined up who can handle your closings for you, it just gives you a lot more control in the deal. Now, is it 100% absolutely necessary that you have to close deals at your title company? No, but I would suggest that you get in the habit. I write into all of my contracts when I'm writing purchase and sale contract to a seller that I am choosing the title company and it's going to take place here. That way there's no questions, when it comes time to do the closing as to where it's going to be. I just let them know up front. I do a lot of business with this title company, and that's where we'll be closing the deal. Now, every once in a blue moon, a seller will say, well, you know what, I would rather close the deal. I've actually had a seller say, I'm not going to do the deal unless we close it at my title company. That's fine. I'm not going to lose a deal over, who's choosing the title company. But if at all possible, like I said, put that into your contract. Let the seller know that this is where we will be closing the deal. On the same note, sometimes the buyer will want to close the deal at their title company because it will save them. A lot of times I sell to buyers, and you will too once you start doing this, closing some deals and working with buyers, repeat buyers. You'll run into people who close a lot of deals, buyers who close a lot of deals, and a lot of times they'll want to use their title company because they can save on fees. With all that being said, once you have the buyer lined up, you have the assignment signed, you're going to want to give a copy of the assignment to your end buyer. You keep a copy, and then you're going to give a copy to your title company. Okay, so the title company is going to get the purchase and sale contract as well as the assignment contract. Now, one big mistake that a lot of beginners make is that once they get that assignment signed and get it off to the title company, they just kind of, sit back and wait for closing. And because when you're assigning a contract as a wholesaler, you don't actually have to show up to closing. There's nothing more for you to sign. Once you assign that contract over to your end buyer, you don't have to sign anything else. You just have to wait for your check. However, you want to remain in control of that deal, like I mentioned earlier. So all the way up until the closing, you want to remain in contact with your seller, with your buyer, and with the title company, just to make sure that everything is going along smoothly. A lot of times problems arise. Maybe the buyer's financing, if he's using a private lender or something like that, maybe he's not going to have financing in time. Maybe an issue popped up with the title. So you're going to want to stay in contact with all parties, the seller, the buyer, and the title company until closing. And I do recommend, even though you do not have to show up to closing when you are signing a contract, I do recommend that you show up just in case something goes wrong. I had a student recently who showed up to closing, and a whole bunch of drama went down, basically, where the end buyers, there was a discrepancy over how much money they were supposed to bring, and one of the there were actually two partners that were purchasing the property, and one of them didn't have the money, and so I believe that the wholesaler ended up kind of giving some of his profit to make the deal work. But if he wasn't at that closing and it was just the seller and the buyers, it probably would have fallen through and he wouldn't have gotten paid. So I recommend that you do show up to the closing. And also, you know, you'll have been dealing with your seller, you know, talking to them. You signed the contract, you went to look to the house. A lot of times it's good for you to be there, so when your end buyer is also there at the closing table, you can introduce them to the seller, and I usually just say, this is my partner. So so that's it. Basically, you get the buyer lined up, you get the assignment, give a copy of the assignment to your end buyer, and usually the end buyer, your end buyer is going to want a copy of the purchase and sale contract as well, and then you're going to get both of those documents to your title company, preferably the assignment contract and the purchase and sale contract, and then, like I said, stay in contact with all parties until closing, show up to closing, and then you get paid. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave them below in the comments on my blog. If you're watching this on YouTube, I do have comments disabled, so if you'd like to leave a comment, go to flipthiswholesaler.net and you can leave a comment below this video. So that's it for today. I will see you guys next Tuesday. Bye-bye.